Damn. All right, DC. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Josh, and today we're going to be talking about The Flash. This is directed by Andy Muschietti. This is sort of the first standalone film for The Flash, who is a character that I think only appeared in the Justice League, both the Joss Whedon version and Zack Snyder's cut. I don't think he was in Batman v Superman from what I can remember, so this is the first time we've seen a standalone film that centers around this character. Now, it's no secret that this movie has had a very troubled production, from a lot of reshoots and just difficulty in the production process to the absolute menace to society that is Ezra Miller. Watching this, I really had to work hard to separate the artist from their art, but if you successfully do so, I think you can go into this movie and not be too bothered by all that stuff. That's my way of saying that I'm going to try to critique this movie from the most objective lens that I possibly can. I'll also note that this movie got a lot of really strong positive buzz in early fan screenings, a lot of people calling this one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. I kept my expectations in check. I don't know, I just always grow really skeptical of people when they say things like that, especially when they're these early fan reactions, because there are so many Twitter pages and publications that just sort of pander to this sort of audience to hype up these movies. Every new MCU movie or DC film, they'll give way more praise than necessary. Point being, I went into this not expecting a masterpiece. I just want a fun comic book movie. And another thing that I'll say is this video is going to be spoiler free. However, if there's something that's shown in the trailer, I'll vaguely talk about it. Having now seen The Flash, I'll definitely say this: it's a delightful mess. There's a lot of really fun surprises in this that I didn't expect whatsoever. There's also some things that really disappointed me, but for the most part, I'd say this is one of the better DC Extended Universe films. Granted, they haven't set the bar very high. This movie opens with a really inventive action sequence involving babies falling from a skyscraper. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to touch on it any more than that, but that was the moment where I sort of sat to myself and thought, maybe this is actually going to be good. In the Snyder cut of the Justice League, we see Barry Allen learn that he can use the Speed Force to travel faster than the speed of light, essentially allowing him to time travel. In The Flash, we see a continuation of that storyline as he now develops this plan to travel back to the day that his mom died and prevent that from happening, thereby also preventing his father from going to prison. I'll be honest, the biggest surprise in this movie for me might be Ezra Miller. In a movie about alternate timelines and different variants of characters, at its core, it's still about Barry Allen and his struggle to move past what happened to his parents. That very intimate story at its core here is executed very strong, and I think Ezra Miller does a surprisingly good job of playing Barry Allen. Despite gripes I may have with things that he's done outside of the filmmaking process, I just didn't see myself ever saying that because I've never really loved him as this character in Justice League. I don't know, he was always just sort of the young, annoying member of the Justice League who geeks out about everything, and that was really all there was to his character. This really changes that. Granted, there is a younger version of Barry Allen that our present time Barry encounters in the movie. That's all in the trailer, so I don't think that's really a spoiler. And he's really annoying. This younger 18-year-old version of him is much less mature, and sometimes he overplays it to the point that the character is really obnoxious. There are other times where he's used in a very comedic sense, and it's quite effective. Point being, I think he does sometimes cross that line into just being flat out annoying. But this is an ensemble movie. We also have Michael Keaton back as Batman, and we have Sasha Calle as Supergirl, and a bunch of other cameos that I don't want to spoil. Long story short, this is another multiverse-themed comic book movie, and it feels like we've gotten so many of those just in the last couple of years, whether we're talking about No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, just a couple weeks ago, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That's another one of my concerns going into this, was that it was going to start to feel like this is a crutch that cinematic universes are going to start to use when they run out of ideas. Well, let's just make alternate realities where we can bring in different characters and sort of rely on that nostalgia to sort of fuel these films and bring audiences into the cinemas. And yes, I will say, some of the cameos in this definitely feel a bit fan servicey, and I think fan service can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. It can be a really good thing if it serves the story in a meaningful way. I think here they do a decent job with it. There are certainly moments and appearances that are surely just there to have people cheering in the theater, to get that gut reaction from your inner fanboy rather than to actually serve the story. And that's okay to have every once in a while too. I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade who just wants to see Michael Keaton suit up as the Bat one more time. And in all fairness, I think they utilize Keaton really well here for the most part. I'll tell you, when that Danny Elfman theme from Batman '89 kicks in, I was feeling the goosebumps. Sasha Calle as Supergirl was great. I kind of wish we got more screen time with her. I think the trailer misled me a little bit into thinking she would have more screen time than she actually got. The villain side of things, I can see people being disappointed with here. Zod from Man of Steel is back here, played by Michael Shannon. This movie doesn't really add much to his character whatsoever. Granted, it's a very packed and crowded film, and it's sort of more about the heroes than the villains, and the heroes are sometimes their own worst enemy, so I don't feel like there was really a necessity for them to expand on his character here. There is another villainous presence that I don't really want to touch on because I don't think it was really in the marketing very much, but it's something that feels a little bit shoehorned in the third act of the film, which is where a lot of my issues with it do lie. And I don't know, I think the introduction of this character just really over-convolutes the rules that they set up for time travel and alternate timelines in this film. It really starts to go down that rabbit hole of doing this to reverse this, and then we can go back in time even further to do this, and it starts to sort of collapse in on itself in terms of logic. Things just start to make less and less sense, and that's something that is going to bother some people, and other people are just going to completely suspend disbelief because this is a superhero movie. Obviously, you're going to have to suspend your disbelief to a certain extent. I just think they go a little bit too far with the time travel stuff. The pacing is another real issue. You can tell that they probably went through a lot of edits in this movie. A lot was probably trimmed out. And I don't know, there are just some scene transitions that don't feel natural, and they kind of left me wondering what the heck happened in the editing room. Another big issue is the visual effects in the third act. And weirdly enough, I'm one of those people who is always a little bit more lenient on VFX, not only because a lot of these people are just super overworked, but also I just never think they're quite as bad as people say they are in Marvel movies and DC, whatever, all of these superhero flicks. So when I read that people were calling the VFX in this movie bad, I sort of assumed they were over-exaggerating, but no, there are genuinely some shots in this movie that look like they're from a video game cutscene. A lot of the details just aren't polished. The shadows look a little bit off, and some of the lighting on the characters, they just don't blend well with the environments. And I'm not saying it's all bad. There are some action sequences that look really good. It's just you can tell that either the VFX workers weren't given enough time, or maybe there's just a little bit too much going on here. I mean, the way they sort of visualize the Flash using the Speed Force to travel back in time, there is just so much visual noise going on in the background that it makes sense that they're not going to be able to polish it perfectly, even with the amount of time they had to finish this thing. I think they're just inconsistent. I don't know. If I rewatch this, which I plan to probably eventually, maybe on a smaller screen, it'll look a little bit better because you're not able to see the small details as much as you are on a big projector. But yeah, as a whole, I surprisingly enjoyed The Flash. I think it's a generally good superhero film. I will say, if you can't separate Ezra Miller as a person from the performance as Barry Allen, it's definitely going to bother you, and you're probably not going to like the movie as much. But setting all of that aside and just judging this as a film in and of itself, I think it's pretty solid. We have fun action, surprisingly well-written humor for the most part, a heartfelt arc for Barry Allen, stakes that feel real, and some good old-fashioned nostalgia. It's very messy, but there was a genuine effort to put out a good film here. I really respect Andy Muschietti as a director. I don't think he necessarily leaves a huge stamp on this as a director, but I think he does a good job with the action sequences. Again, there were some inventive things, particularly in the first act, that really intrigued me. And for all of this movie's faults, I think it's a fun time. So I'm going to give The Flash 3.5 out of 5. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on the latest DCEU film. I'm probably going to rank all of the films in this cinematic universe before it gets totally scrapped and James Gunn reboots it with Superman. I can't remember what the title of the film is going to be. And as I'm sitting here thinking about the movie, I will say the fact that this is all about to be scrapped does take away from the ending of this a little bit, because the ending does leave things open to where not everything is fully explained as to what happened. But whatever, I'm going to take a leap of faith and judge it as its own singular product. I think it's pretty solid. As always, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.